I want you to think about something. I want you to think about your past relationship, past or present. And I wanted you to think about when he showed up as his best. I'm not talking about like the beginning of the relationship, because in the honeymoon stage, we all show up on our best behavior. We're all super lovey-dovey. But I want you to think about when he was consistent, when he would call, when he said he would call, when he would take you out on the dates without you having to beg or nag or say, or take you on a date and it's not a special occasion. I want you to think about those times where he was attentive, where he was consistent. Now I want you to pay attention to what was going on around those times. Did he show up as this man because he's consistent and that's who he is? Or was there a threat in the relationship? And what I mean by that is that maybe you guys had an argument, so there was a rift. Maybe there had been a change in your energy, or maybe you just flat out said, I'm leaving. If he made a decision to show up differently when you decided to leave the relationship or when there was a rift, then that man is not changed. What has happened is that he is responding out of fear. There is some psychology that explains this, and I'm going to go deeper into it later. But you have to know that this man may be showing up differently, not because he loves you, but because he fears the loss of the relationship. And let me say this, because I know women. We interpret him fearing the loss of the relationship as if he loves us. So that's why he's changing. And that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he is trying to maintain the equilibrium in his nervous system. So he is showing up and giving you the best that he got, like Anita Baker said, so that he can soothe and regulate himself. Many women don't question, why has he decided to change now that I'm ready to walk out of the door? And many of us need to, because just because a man is showing up changed doesn't mean that his motivation is love, and doesn't mean that his motivation is that he cherishes and really wants the relationship. And we get those things mixed up and confused. So let me give you the name to what is happening in the relationship, or at least with your partner. It's called intermittent reinforcement. Okay. It's a behavioral pattern. So think of it like this. Have you ever played a slot machine? You ever gone to, what's the places where you play the slot machine? The casino. There it is. So you go to the casino and you play the slot machine. Now there's some people, they are super disciplined. They're like, listen, I'm only $20. I lose these $20, then I'm not going to play anymore. But this is the thing. Intermittent reinforcement has shown that intermittent reinforcement, or inconsistent reinforcement, inconsistent access to a reward creates a stronger attachment than consistent. So when you're at the slot machine and you played, and this is $20, and then that slot machine kicks out $50. I don't know nothing about playing the slot machine, y'all, so don't, roll with me. That slot machine kicks out that $50. What happens? Your brain says, oh, okay, wait a minute. I can keep doing this because I just won $50. Then what happens? Your goal was, listen, I'm only going to play these. I'm only going to do it with this $20. I only can play for $20. Now you done lost $100. $100 of your own money because you won $50 and then you went because you're like, I know I can get it. That's the same thing that happens in relationships. Okay. So let me explain it in more detail. So intermittent reinforcement comes from research on how reward affects behavior. And the finding, which has been replicated over and over, is that rewards given inconsistently, unpredictably, are far more powerful at creating attachment than rewards given consistently. I had to slow down for that, okay? So a man who is consistently warm becomes predictable. A man who is warm only sometimes, especially right when you are about to walk away, becomes addictive. And that is why you may have the hardest time walking away from relationships when the man is inconsistent, because his inconsistency, it feels like a reward to you. So you guys got together, it was super great in the beginning. Then it's a period where maybe he became complacent. Then he becomes very consistent, and that is triggering your reward system. And you keep wanting and desiring, hoping that he will become the man that you know that he could be. But he is only providing that behavior to you sometimes, not because he values you or the relationship, but he's providing that behavior because he is wanting to manage himself, because he doesn't want to deal with the fear. There is a loss aversion that is going on in him. And I'm going to talk about that more in detail, right? So this is the thing. He may be comfortable in the relationship, comfort for someone who has not done the work to maintain, right, effort without external pressure. He may be a man that needs external pressure in order to do. He lacks internal motivation as relates to the relationship. And so he stops initiating, he stops being intentional, because nothing is requiring him to be. The relationship is stable, you are present, and stability without accountability tends to produce coasting. This is where people talk about becoming bored in their relationship, because really two people have either become complacent or you're just coasting in the relationship. But when you pull back, then you trigger the stability in the relationship. So now the relationship is unstable. That's the word. And the threat of loss activates something in him. That is what I'm talking about. That is the loss aversion. It's not the threat of loss activates love. No, it activates fear. That's what's happening. Now, this is the thing. The fear may be that maybe in his history, he's had other relationships, and because of this behavior, it has caused him to lose those relationships. So he is motivated by fear to change. It also could be, like I said before, it's just homeostasis. He's just trying to make himself feel good. And this is why he will change for a minute and then go back into the cycle. And I want to talk to you about how we often have learned how to misread this. Because as women, we have been taught that effort equals love. That's why we give labor, but we don't require it. That's why you're giving physical labor and emotional labor. And when a man shows up giving labor, then all of a sudden you feel love. Think about those Lifetime movies, or even those Harlequin romance or Zane books we was reading back in the day. I know y'all was reading Zane. I know y'all was. Or them Kennedy Ryan books you read it. Okay. Usually the plot is they get together, they don't like each other. He breaks her heart, he leaves, and all of a sudden he comes back and he declares his love, right? Right. That's what happens. So as women, when we see this cycle or this pattern happen in our relationships, we feel like, he loves me. Oh, how he loves me. But that's not what it is. It's not him showing that he's loving you. See, we're taught that when a man is fighting to keep us, that's the most romantic thing that he can do. We weren't taught that a man should consistently treat you with love and devotion and respect. No. So it's not until you pull back and then he leans forward that all of a sudden you feel loved and cared for, because you were taught to equate that, right? Think about in the movies where she's getting ready to get on. You remember Martin when she was getting ready to leave and then he proposed? Why Gina had to do all that in order for Martin to get right? These are the type of situations that some of you are dealing with. Okay. Many women weren't taught to ask this useful question, and I'm going to share it with you. Why does it take the threat of loss to access, right, the version of him that should have been available all the time? See, the version of him that you ultimately want, you want it all the time, but he is not willing or motivated to give you that version of him, the kind, the consistent, the caring, the loving, the doting, the devoted version, or not just to you, but your family, unless you threaten to leave or you pull back your energy. And see, then what happens is that many women see or think all of a sudden like he is changed. But change doesn't happen in 48 hours. So let's say you threaten to leave on a Tuesday. Shawty pulled up on a Tuesday. So you threatened to leave on a Tuesday. All of a sudden on a Thursday, now he's decided to be a different person. It takes 21 days to form a habit. So he didn't change. What happened was, and I feel in my mind, this is very insulting. He knows what he needs to do in order to keep the relationship. So he's willing to give it so that you will calm down, let your guard down. And then he knows, okay, I have about a good 15 weeks of her tolerating my lack of showing up as the man that she wants me to be before I got to flip the switch on again. He didn't change. He did not change. Real change, the kind that holds, takes sustained effort over time, usually with some form of accountability, whether that's outside therapy or outside support, like therapy or coaching. And if he doesn't have a therapist, if he's not seeing a coach, then I wouldn't trust that this change is truly motivated because it's something that he intrinsically wants to do. I would think that this change is happening because he doesn't want to lose the comfort. I don't want to lose my family. No, he doesn't want to lose the stability of you. See, sometimes we as women truly have to understand what it is that we are bringing to relationships. You have become his life manager, his life coach, his therapist. You have become the one that cooks. You've become the person that serves him. You are essentially exhausted. And when you turn and ask him for something, he tells you no. But it's not until you say, you know what? I'm leaving this relationship, or I can't do this anymore. It's not until you yell, you scream, you cry. Now all of a sudden he wants to change. You have to meet almost your breaking point before he decides that he wants to show up and partner in the relationship. And that's not okay. That's not okay. That's not okay. Right? So let's talk about this pattern. If the only thing that produces his best behavior is the threat of losing you, you have not found a relationship. You have found a pattern that requires you to perform instability in order to receive the basic consideration. And this is exhausting. I know it is. So what I'm describing, right, needing to create instability just to access basic effort is exactly the pattern that I will be addressing in the Girls Need Boundaries course, which will be on July 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern. The link will be down below as the first pinned comment. If you are going through this and experiencing this in your relationships, then you want to be in this course, okay? So let me say this, that you have learned, right, without meaning to, that distance is the only language that he responds to. So you have learned that you have to create distance in this relationship in order for him to act right. But the other thing is that is exhausting. Who wants to be in a relationship in which they can't bring their whole selves? Who wants to be in a relationship in which they can't be emotionally safe? Who wants to be in a relationship where they have to be detached? They always have to be on guard. You have to protect yourself and protect your heart because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're waiting for him not to show up the way that he said he was going to show up. This man begged, he cried, he talked to your mama, he talked to the pastor. He did everything to get you back, and you're still fearful that he is going to leave, or not going to leave, that he is going to revert back to the man that he is. Because you have to be very honest with yourself. You know who he is. Now, you know how he can show up, but you also know who he is. And you have to respect who he is deciding to show up as, okay? And this is the thing with many women. You start to withhold warmth, not because you do not feel it, but because you have learned that expressing it freely gets you less from him and not more. So forgive me, y'all, for what I'm about to say. There's the book called Men Love Bitches. Forgive me, right? That is this concept. So you want to act this way. What is it? The black cat and all them things. Child, please. You're doing all of that in order to get what you want from him, but that's not how it should be. Because really what's happening is that you are creating a level of vigilance in your relationship. You are being triggered, and you are always on alert and on guard in the relationship, because you have to watch him. You have to see, is he going to act right today? Is he going to call like he said he would? You feel anxious in your body because you're waiting for him. He said he was going to call at 3:30, and so you're sitting there by the phone looking to see if he will. He said that he would be more available for the children and that he would pick the children up from daycare. So you know that daycare is closing at 6:30, so you're looking at the phone at 6:29 to see if the daycare is getting ready to call you. No. Now you feel exhausted in the relationship because it's about the vigilance. It's about you being alert. It's about you having to monitor to see if he's going to do what he said he's going to do, versus being with a partner that you know anything he tells you, you can trust his word because his word lines up with his behavior. Listen, let me say this. I want you to test the truth of this relationship. And what I mean by that is, I don't want you to, list ultimatums or anything. I want you to really pay attention to him. Stop watching what he does when he's afraid of losing you, and start watching what he does when he is completely secure that he has you. That is going to tell you everything you need to know about the relationship. When that man is secure in the relationship, that tells you how he is going to show up in the relationship. So if all of a sudden the date nights are gone, all of a sudden he's not consistent, that is who he is. Now the question is, what are you going to do with that information? That's the question. Because you already have this information, but you've made a decision to pull back. Or maybe it's not a conscious decision. Maybe it's a cycle that you haven't been aware of. So that's why you're watching this video, because you're like, my gosh, this is speaking to me. Yeah, this is what's happening. I didn't even know it was happening. I remember this client one time talked about, in her relationship, that her husband never cleaned. He only cleaned when he wanted to have sex. And she felt, first of all, it was weaponized incompetence. And sometimes we as women have to acknowledge the role that we play in men being incompetent in the relationship. We allow them essentially to weaponize it. And so he wouldn't shower, he wouldn't do anything. But when he wanted to have sex, he would clean the kitchen and clean the bathroom. He would take a shower, and then he'd be like, ta-da! And she was so drained, she was so exhausted because she was cleaning up after him, cleaning up after children, cleaning up after herself. And she was like, if he knows how to do this, why does he only do it when he's motivated to have sex? And the truth is, not intentionally, she created this cycle. She created this reward. So he knows, if I clean the house, she will have sex with me. Now, the first couple of times that may have happened, she may be like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Oh, he finally understands me and finally understands what I need. And he was only doing it to have sex, okay? We have to respect how a man is deciding to show up in a relationship. Now, I did the video about why self-aware women end up accepting the least in dating. And it has to do with the pattern, right? The pattern in your mind that you need to give yourself permission that you don't have to stay in this relationship if he is not deciding to show up as a partner to you the way you need to be partnered. Everybody has something that happens in their relationships. Relationships are hard. Relationship, blah, blah, blah. That's very true. But if this man is demonstrating that he has the ability to give you what you're asking for, then you have to ask the question, and he needs to be able to provide an answer. Why is he not willing to do it consistently? That's it. That's all. Why is he not willing to do this consistently? If he only treats you right when he thinks he might lose you, what you have is not a relationship that occasionally struggles. What you have is a relationship that runs on fear instead of choice. And those two things produce very different lives. A relationship run on choice gives your partner, right, the ability to show up because he wants to, not because he has to. A relationship run on fear, your partner shows up because he feels like he has to in order to prevent loss of the relationship. And don't we want partners that choose us? Don't we want partners that give to us because they want to give to us, not because they want access to us? Or maybe they show up only because the benefits that come with us, not from a genuine space of love. Because that's what you deserve. You deserve to be loved. If you recognize this pattern in your own life, if you have been engineering distance, right, just to get him to act right, That's what we're going to be working through in the Girls Need Boundaries course on July 18th. I want to see you there. There is a coupon code, 15 off, 15 off, so that you can get a $15 discount. All right. This is Heal to Be Sexy. My name is Smithia.